Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, family.
Greetings in the name of Yah. We had a very interesting subject we want to talk about. You know, black marriage is under attack.
It has been for a very long time.
That's right.
But it seems to be amped up this last day, and there's a reason why.
That's right.
Now, on this particular broadcast, we're not going to deal with any one particular subject because we're going to be reintroducing the marriage series, which we already had several topics we've discussed in the marriage series, but we're going to revisit it because we can see something going on that is very, very diabolical.
Yes.
And we hope to shed some light on that so that we could do what we can to help save the Israelite marriage. We put black in the title so that those who are not aware of us being Israelites will also join in the conversation.
That's right. Absolutely. You know, through the years, I have seen a lot of marriages just go down the drain. You know, relationships that it appears people really love each other, then next thing you know, they're divorced or something, you know, and it's tragic. It's really tragic that, you know, that this is what's going on. Now, I remember when me and my wife first got married, and I'm not kidding you. It was like Satan launched a full attack on us, didn't he?
Yes.
It was like before we got married, things were going fine financially. Both of us were working, making good money. I mean, everything just seemed to be working so well, didn't it? And then when you figure, when you come together right, that things are going to get twice as better. And boy, that devil, I'm telling you, he was throwing everything at us financially, mentally, just everything he possibly could, he was throwing it at us.
I'll say it like this. We weren't making like a lot of money or anything like that. We just didn't have a lot of bills at the time. We didn't have a lot of the kind of stuff that you have in a marriage.
Right.
And so
we were doing decent. We were young people. We were young people. You know, both of us was young, and we had decent jobs. And you figure if two people have decent jobs and they come together, this should make it a lot better. Mm-hmm. But immediately after that, things just went belly up. You know, I was without work, and just a number of things happened, you know, that made things really hard on us financially. It was hard. I'm not gonna kid you. It was a struggle, and it was just all kinds of things were coming at us, literally, you know.
One thing we noticed in scripture too, in which you don't learn these things in the Christian church, but there is a passage in one of the apocryphal books that talks about how the enemy actually attacks marriages. There are demons. There are demons assigned to marriages, you see. And so being equipped with that information now, we can now share that with some of you who are going to get married or you're newly married. Now, we've seen a number of your messages over the past couple of weeks or so, which is one of the reasons why we felt the need to revisit the marriage series. Wanting to let you know that we have been reading the messages and we see what's going on. It's very important that these issues are talked about now because I don't think it's the Father's will for you to enter into marriage and then just break out of it, okay? Especially if it's a situation where you love someone, but there are some problems that you don't seem to be able to overcome, right? But of course, there are situations where two people should have never been married in the first place. We'll get to those as well within this series. We're not going to cover everything today. We just wanted to reintroduce the series because it's very important that the Israelite or the so-called black marriage is dealt with according to the Ruach, okay? The person can philosophize and give you all kinds of information, earthly knowledge or wisdom on how to make things better. But without the Ruach, none of that is going to really help your situation without the guidance of the Most High, because you're dealing with demons, you're dealing with spirits, you're dealing with things that have been assigned to you to ensure that your marriage fails.
Yeah.
And so we want to deal with this on a spiritual level as the Ruach gives us the guidance to do so. I do believe that a lot of the things that we have gone through in our marriage, that the Most High allowed those things for this very moment. As a matter of fact, a lot of things in our lives, period, that we've gone through. I mean, from the least to the greatest, I believe that the Most High allowed those things specifically so that we can do what we're doing right now, which is dealing with God's people.
Exactly. Now, I want to explain something to you real quickly. I want you to think about what I said. Okay. Now, the enemy comes in. We know the enemy is Satan, right? Well, it's rare that he comes in using a human to destroy the marriage. So it's usually not because there's another person coming in trying to break up a marriage. That happens, don't get me wrong, that does happen. The number of times that happens with people. But in a lot of cases, that don't be the case. So what is Satan doing then to cause these marriages to break up? What is he using?
So in the beginning of the marriage, it may not be another person.
That's right.
Although some people have experienced that too. It's usually satanic attacks in the beginning of a marriage. Like that can come in later.
Later on, yeah. That's
in the
right.
marriage.
That's right.
There's a lot of something that happens.
When you're vulnerable. Right.
That is something that happens in a lot of marriages. We're going to deal specifically with some questions that have been presented to us. Like I said, not today, but we want to address some of those with separate videos so that we can deal with that particular issue, right. Because everyone has something different that they're going on. What we want to do is touch on basic things that attack a marriage. And there are so many things. I mean, I could just go through a list.
Yeah. What I was trying to really do too is I want you to understand something. When I ask the question, and I'm looking for if 9 times out of 10, a lot of times that I've seen, it isn't that someone else is coming into a marriage to just break up that marriage. Now, it's usually things that's going on in the marriage or whatever. But actually, I'm gonna tell you what I've learned and what I've seen. It's usually the people themselves. Are you hearing what I'm saying here? Okay. Now, I'll tell you what I learned over the years. Okay, that Satan, and when I say he was using me, he wasn't possessing me or nothing like that. That would allow him to use me. Are you hearing what I'm saying here? Okay. Now, that simply means that a lot of times brothers, men and women don't get any type of proper counseling from someone that's spiritual. And so a lot of times people, when people go into marriages, they bring a whole lot of stuff that's in their being, the way that they are into a marriage. And then they don't realize that there's something wrong with that, bringing that into a marriage. And that was part of my problem, okay? I was bringing some things into our marriage that I didn't realize was off. And it was through struggling back and forth that when I came to realize it, I said, man, I got to let go of this. I got to let go of that. Because if I don't, it's going to continue to cause a problem. You get what I'm saying? Now, I think that one of the things that I hope you see in this series and in the things that we talk about is that we're always pointing the finger whenever there's a problem. We're always pointing the finger at the other person. And sometimes we need to look in the mirror. You know, that I had to do. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. It's a hard thing to do. Okay, it's a very hard thing to do. You know, and I'm saying this to you brothers out there, that sometimes you need to go and look in the mirror. You need to look in the mirror at yourself. You know, and look and analyze yourself and see if there's anything that you're doing that's causing things to go a certain way, that's causing these attacks, because Satan needs something to work with. You know what I said? If he don't have nothing to work with, he can't do nothing. It's all like there or there just blowing at you. Don't do nothing to you, you know?
Also, I don't want the brothers to think that this will be a series,
Right. Yeah,
a series that's going to highlight all of the problems of the brothers, because I will say this much. We have gotten some messages and requests from brothers as well.
That's right.
Who are dealing with wives who have stepped out of bounds.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Or wives who have gotten out of their own lane.
Right.
And they are running their husband off the road. Okay.
He said running him off the road.
Running them off the road. So this particular series, we're going to deal with some of those issues, and we will be talking about some personal. I think it's very productive when you can talk about things that you have gone through. This is why I say I believe that the Most High allowed us to go through certain things so that we can do what we're doing right now.
We got to do it together too, because
Yes.
just like my wife said, see, I can deal with the men issues. She can deal with the women issues. So together we can try to help some of you.
Right.
Now some things, I'm telling you, we've gotten a lot of emails from a lot of people and some things they want us to comment on and talk about. Some of these things are kind of hard to do because you kind of got to hear both sides of stories in order to actually be an effective counselor. So that being said, this is why we do the videos, and hoping that we could deal with some of these issues in the videos without being personal. You know what I'm
We
saying?
can touch on the subjects and not be specific as to who it's for.
That's right.
But anyone who may be going through something similar can hopefully get something from the lesson that we present. You see. Now, again, we're going to be dealing with issues too that we've gone through personally, just so that we can bring something personal to the table. We don't want, anyone can sit down and talk to you and tell you what they think you should do, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You can get book knowledge and try to use that book knowledge to analyze a person's situation, but on a spiritual level, that may not work.
Right.
Most High might have a total different answer to your issue or your problem than what some university suggests that you say.
That's
You
right.
see, so dealing with these types of issues definitely requires prayer, and that you can hear the Most High, because I've said this before, that there are people that have requested to speak with us, and we have prayed, asked the Most High to reveal to us who He wants us to deal with on a personal level, because there are certain things, certain times the Most High wants you to speak to a person and deal with them on a personal level, because there's something that they need.
That's right.
You see, and I've experienced that many times where the Most High will say that He don't want me to just respond to this person via email.
Yeah.
Don't just send them a message. I need you to talk to this person. And so that's what these lessons are going to be about.
Yeah.
Basically dealing with some of these issues, and anyone who could receive from this, we hope that these lessons can be a blessing to you, because the so-called black marriage is under attack, right? And we have to be able to hear the voice of the Ruach, because there is an order that has been out of order.
That's right.
You see, and until we get back in order, you're going to continue to see certain things happening in marriages. Now, a lot of people are in marriages that are very strained.
Yeah.
I saw in the chat here, there's someone who said that they've only been married 3 months, and they've been under major attacks already. 3 months.
3 months.
See? And that sounds just like the enemy's MO. That is exactly what the enemy does. And so we hope to be a blessing to those of you who are hoping to enter into marriage, or those of you who are already in marriage, those of you who are having problems, and for those of you who have smooth sailing right now, you might hit a bump in the road. So we're hoping that something that we say can help you get to that bump in the road.
That's right. Yeah, you know, it's amazing. You know, I thank the Most High for the things that we've gone through and the things that we've learned. You know, one thing I will say this much, you know, that you have to really love your spouse.
Yes.
Okay. And that's so important, because I see people dropping relationships as fast as you drop it. You know, like people want to get rid of yeah, hot potato. You know, just real quick.
I had a statement I made at one time that people jump in and out of relationships like hopscotch.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in and out, and it's like, oh, so what kind of relationship was that you had with the person, to where you can just up and be gone with somebody else a month later, and you don't even think about the person no more, huh? So, what kind of relationship is that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that relationship was that cold then, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so basically, it got to be real love there. I mean, the man, the brothers, you got to really love her. She got to really love you if you really expect to get through the struggles.
I'm going to tell you right now, I think many of us can tell if there's love there or if it's simply lust.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us are that immature as to not be able to discern whether or not a person really truly loves you. And so what we're going to do, I'm making mental notes of some of the chat messages here. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll even copy some of them, but the question of divorce, okay? These are things we want to deal with individually. Like I said, this is just a reintroduction to the marriage series so that you all can look forward. And you can even email us some more of your questions, because we definitely want to deal with some of these questions on a real level. We want to get guidance from the Ruach to be able to articulate to you all what is happening and what should be done in certain cases, because some of these things are very heavy duty.
Yeah.
Some of them are lightweight, okay? We've gotten some lightweight questions too, but some of them are heavy duty.
Some of them are very heavy.
There seems to be desperateness in some of the messages, and we understand, because when you're desperate, a marriage, that means you understand that marriage is very important. And when you're trying your best to fight to save it, this is because you realize that this is an attack from the enemy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the enemy is doing. We all, excuse me, I want to read this question here. I'm not sure what that statement is trying to say here, but well, basically, when it comes to marriage and the issues of marriage, it is hard to talk about it in the real world if you don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Okay? If you don't have the Ruach, or you're not being led by the Ruach, because, you know, anybody can sit you down and say, well, this is what you should do, that's what you should do over here. You have some people who would actually tell you to get a divorce if your sex life with your spouse isn't what you want. See, you have some people who will advise you to get a divorce for something like that. You see, or just say your husband may be a garbage man. You'll have some people say, "Girl, you deserve better than that." You see, there's all kinds of people giving advice out here on what a person should not do in a marriage. You see, but not everyone is equipped to do this according to what Yah would tell you to do. Not everyone is hearing from Yah. You know, there are people who are waiting to tear up your marriage so that they can swoop in and pick up the pieces for your spouse.
Yeah.
You see? So there's a number of things to consider here. And we definitely want to steer you right. We don't want to steer you according to our own desires or what we think you should do, but according to what the Ruach would have you to do.
That's
Every
right.
situation is different, okay?
That's right.
We, like I said, we've had some heavy duty things presented to us. And so there's our desire to make sure that we handle them properly, each situation properly.
Yeah, it's like my wife said, it's all in you know, it's all in the Ruach, guidance from the Ruach. You see, everybody's situation is different. Now, let me lay this on you, right? There's not one person on this planet that know your situation better than you, right? But there is someone that does know your situation better than you, and you know who that person is? It's Yah, the Ruach. And through the Ruach can guide someone and direct someone and can direct you to the right answer and can direct someone to give you the right answer and the right thing to do as it relates to your marriage. And so this is where we're talking about. We're talking about being led of the Ruach, knowing it's the Ruach and going in the direction of the Ruach. You see, because that's really what's important. Let me tell you something. It's a million counselors out here, right? A million of them. Okay. Um, but not one of them could steer you better than the Ruach can, right? You get what I'm saying? So that's all we're pretty much offering. We're offering guidance through the Ruach and show you how to really pray for your marriage, to pray to Yah, to get answers for your marriage from Him. I tell you why. Okay, there's a scripture I want you to see. Okay, I'm gonna take you to the scripture. Okay, and this scripture is so important that you get this because when we're running to people so much trying to get answers, and we don't realize what we have going on. And sometimes it can be a literal insult to the Most High. But I want you to see something here.
We want you all to feel, while he's looking for the scripture, we want you all to feel free to send questions to us because we're going to be dealing with this particular subject. Um, we're not going to put a time frame on it. We don't know how long we'll continue, but it's definitely something that we need to get some answers and some help and assistance on. Submit your questions to us, and we will try to address them without using names or anything
Exactly.
during this series.
Now I want you to see something here. Here's the scripture. This is Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. It says, For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. And his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
The mighty Elohim, the everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace. It said Counselor. Okay. Now, so basically, Yahushua is that counselor that we need that can help us in our situations. And he does it through the Ruach. Okay? He does it through the Ruach.
Mm-hmm.
So the word, if you look it up in Hebrew, it says to take advice, advise, consult, counsel. So you need some advice, he is an advisor.
Okay, Tiffany.
Hallelujah.
To Tiffany and many others who are posting questions, I'm going to go ahead and highlight these questions so that we can address them at a later time. And it would also be helpful if you could submit them on the site too. But we're going to be going through specific questions. That is a good question that you have there. So we're not going to be just dealing with those who are just married, but even those who have um, children and the dad may not be in the picture, or even if he is in the picture, you're not necessarily married to him. We want to deal with a number of different questions that may be presented because relationships, period, among our people are very, very important that we repair these things. Now I want to talk about some things that my husband and I experienced early on in our marriage. Um, Many of you know that my husband is much older than I am, and any of you who have been young, and I know not everyone goes through the same thing. Some women are so super strong that they never cry or get emotional about anything, that they just breeze right on through life. But some women are a little more sensitive than others, and um, emotional. Now, one thing I will say about emotions, because everyone gets that word kind of twisted up. Emotions come in many different flavors. You can be very passionate with your emotions, or you can be very dry and dull with your emotions. It's still an emotion, you see. So you can be emotional on a dry, um, dull level, or you can be emotional on a spirited level, you see. But anyway, um, I was one of those who was very emotional on a spirited level. When I say spirited, tears, okay, sensitive. And my husband, I would say that he came from a family where the men are very um, strong-willed and very authoritative and very mannish. Is that a good word to use?
Yep, that's a good word.
So, and he also spoke loudly. He talked loud. And he even does that sometimes. Even
Seem like I'm screaming, but I'm not.
And so,
really,
yeah,
just
sometimes it seems like he's screaming or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember one time we were talking to a brother who was talking to us about
the word,
being the Israelites or whatever. And we were both on the call, and I thought it was kind of funny when the brother said, "Man, why are you screaming at me?" But anyway, um, early on in our marriage, we would um, we would have these little incidents. Our son just chuckled over there. We would have these little incidents, and I'll say this much. Um, in retrospect, I can look back and I understand some things, and I talked about this before in one of my videos. My husband, he would be going to work all day. This was after we had Elia, and so Elia was a baby, and we had our oldest daughter, Tiara. And so I would just be sitting there. We lived in Westland in an apartment in Westland, Michigan. So I would be sitting there just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for him to come home. And so I'm thinking that as soon as he walks through the door, he's going to be excited to talk to me too, just as excited as I was to talk to him. Not realizing that this man just worked all day, so when he comes through the door, he's probably going to be tired. You see, and so I had to learn that it's nothing for me to be so super sensitive over. Because I was at first I was like, I felt like you don't want to talk to me, blah blah blah. And as you grow, you begin to realize that, okay, the man is tired. Let him rest first, and then you can tell him about your day or ask him about his day. You see, and that was something I had to learn. And it took a while because I was very sensitive. I felt like, well, you didn't even miss me, did you? I was very sensitive. And sometimes I would cry and I would get very emotional and stuff like that. And it's just one of those things that some young women go through. And that's me. And I'm just being honest with you. It was one of those things I went through. I didn't understand him not wanting to talk to me because I missed him. And I thought the feeling was mutual.
But see, the thing is, I did miss you. It's just like you said though, when you've had such a rough day at work and you coming home, and this particular job I had at the time was a trip. It was a very hard working job. So when I come in the door, my brain already on overload, and I would fall out in the chair and be like, oh man, and I understand my wife, she would be feeling like, well man, I want to talk. Can we talk? I'll tell you about this, I'll tell you about that, and all this. And I was just kind of like, just really tired, so.
Like, let me rest first. And so,
Yeah.
That among other things, having a baby sometimes makes you very emotional too. So when you pile all of that stuff on top of it, you go through these little things. And I can remember one time, so we shared this before, when sometimes I would get really emotional and I would cry and all this different stuff, and I would get beside myself. And and I said to my husband one time, I said, and I'm about to get a little bit mushy here, so you all bear with me for a minute. During one of my sober moments, I told my husband, I said, when I start to act a certain way, I want you to hold me down. I want you to hold my chest down. I want you to sit on me. And this is what my husband would do. He would lay on my chest like this. Okay, that was his way of holding me down. And he would sing this little song, My Miko, to try to calm me down. My Miko, my Miko. Now, I know this sounds really silly right now, but like I said, I was very young when we first got married, and I had gone through some things too, coming up and all this kind of stuff. So I didn't have a dad in my life that felt anything for me, should I say. And so that was one of those things you feel like many of you have felt that rejection from not having a father. So you feel like you're unlovable and you feel all these different things. And so I brought in some bags of emotions too from all of that, feeling unloved. I'm having my father say to me that I wasn't his child and all this other stuff, while at the same time he's accepting my sister and sending her gifts and calling her his daughter. And so when you have those kind of things, a lot of people feel like, well, you need to get over that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm the kind of person that I see things like this. I can't tell a person what to get over. I've seen other adult females as well had daddy issues. They never felt loved by their daddy, so they kind of bring those emotions with them into a marriage. And so my husband helped me by coming up with that song, and he would hold me down and sing My Miko, and I would just have to snap out of it to kind of bring myself back to, okay, it's not that bad. Whatever it is I'm feeling sad over, it's not that bad, you see. And so these are the kind of, there's so many different things. And then we had a lot of financial things in the beginning of our marriage that weighed so heavy on us.
Yeah, one thing I learned too is this here, and this is what made me realize that it was demons that was doing this, because I would look back sometimes, right, and we couldn't even remember what we argued on. That's how minute those things were. If we can't remember them, then why at that moment that we did get into these arguments, that it was so heated? You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So then something was influencing that thing. So when I began to look at that, I said, man, that explains why, you know what I mean? It explains it.
Right.
Because if it was something really serious, then it's like, oh, no, you didn't ate the last burger. No, just kidding. But it would be, you know what I mean? It would have to be something serious, And I would sit there and I would say, man, we couldn't even remember it. Even after a few days, I don't know what that was about,
Exactly.
And we would sit there and say, man, it's something going on. That's why you got to be careful. You got to know how these spirits work, because these spirits, these wicked spirits, they kind of work like this here. Listen to me carefully, right? You know that when a person gets arrested, they tell you what? Everything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law, right?
Yes.
So that's really the time you should shut up, because they're going to use it against you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Now, sometimes the enemy is he's listening to everything you say, and he's trying to use that thing against you. Yeah. So what he would do is he would go to one of the partners, or even both partners in the marriage, right? And he would, and that partner would hear the wife say something, and he would, it would be highlighted in his ears. Or she would hear him say something, it'd be highlighted in her ears. And you have this spirit that's sitting there trying to work this thing like that, trying to get them going, I'm willing to bet you it's a demon on both sides. One on both. Come on, they're looking at each other and say, yeah, throw something, get them going,
Yeah.
It's almost like getting an engine going, But I'm telling you, I've learned that words are very important that you understand. It's very important that you understand how powerful words are. And that the enemy is always trying to use your words against you.
Yes.
Always.
Absolutely.
You see? So then we got to get smart with the things we say. We got to be careful with the things we say. As men, we can't just, when you love somebody, right? I mean, when you truly love your spouse, then you got to be careful what you say to her or to him, right? Because you could say something that could actually damage that person mentally. Now, words, the scripture tell you that the word of Yah is like a sword.
Yes.
Your words are like a sword too. Yeah, your
Yeah.
words are like a sword too. Isn't that what James said when he talked about the tongue? He said it's an unruly evil.
Yes, and then death and life are in the power.
Death and life are in the power of tongue. So you're saying something to somebody, and those words are hurting people, are stabbing your spouse with these words. You're killing your spouse sometimes with your words. You know, and so that's why we got to be careful. Absolutely.
Absolutely. We have to be careful, very careful.
Yeah.
And like my husband said early on, when we were starting this particular broadcast, that sometimes it's our own selves we need to examine. Okay?
Yeah.
We need to examine ourselves because it's very easy to look at your spouse and lay all the blame or lay the complete and total charge on that person. But looking in the mirror is the hardest thing for any of us to do. It's the hardest thing for any of us to do. One thing my husband and I have done is we both analyze ourselves in front of each other.
Yeah.
You know, in other words, we admit when we are wrong. Yeah. And this might sound funny, and I'm trying to be funny when I say this, but we argue about who is more at fault. No, it's me. No, it's me. No, I'm just kidding.
It's my fault, man. I'm telling you.
No, it's my fault. I did it. I'm kidding about that right there. But we do. When we try to clear the air, we both lay out what we could have done better, what we could have said better. And the Most High actually speaks to us and tells us when we have been wrong in something. You see, I've gone to the Word sometimes and saw my fault. And I'll come to my husband with a scripture. I say, baby, this scripture right here, you know, this scripture right here, me, you know, me. And so I've learned to be that way. My husband have learned to be that way because it's the enemy who always wants you to look at the other person, you see. Now, I will say this much. Okay, I will say this much. Sometimes it is the other person.
Sometimes it is.
I've seen. I don't want people to say, "Well, see, I'm let off the hook." They said it's usually the person, and it's not me. No, sometimes it is the other person, but there's a way to deal with it when it is the other person.
It's a way to seek the Most High and find out if it's you or the other person. Mm-hmm. You know, because there were times I'm telling you, I was just completely like. No. This is my wife's. This is your fault this time. And then I'm not kidding you. One of the most tripped out things when the Most High speaks so clearly to you and say, you're the fault. And I'll be sitting there like, whoa, wait a minute. And Most High tell me, you're the one that's wrong. And I would be so shocked. I would go in there and sit down in a chair like this. I'd be like this. I'd be almost like man, did I hear that again? No, that's my brain playing around with my mind and everything. Can't be. I know y'all didn't just say that, right? And I'd be sitting there pondering, and then they'll say it again. Nope, it's your fault. I'm gonna show you what you did wrong. And I'd be sitting there, and I'd be like, oh man, okay, what did I do wrong? And then he'll show it to me, and then I'll be like, oh man. And some of these things can be so hidden from you seeing it. When I say that, I mean just really hidden. And when the Most High would speak to me and say, no, it's your fault. And I would sit there and say, oh, man. It's like, no, what you did, you know, or what you said, or whatever it could be, right? And I'll sit there, I go and I'll be like, oh, man, I'm sorry, baby. You know what? The Most High just spoke to me and told me I was wrong. That it was me, you know, and that, you know, and I would sit there and I would just be like.
One good example of that I shared with in one of my videos. I don't know if my husband saw it, but it was an incident where I was asking him not to eat the bread that had yeast in it because I didn't want him to be going through any pain. And boy, that particular time, he wasn't trying to hear what I had to say because our daughters bake some of the best bread.
They sure do.
Yeah, they sure do. And But I was saying, but the yeast in the bread is not good for you and what you're going through right now. And we just kind of went to town with that one. And what I did in that particular case, in which I shared it on my channel, I went in the room and I laid on my bed and I was just looking up at the ceiling, and I was refusing to talk to him. I started crying, and I was really upset. And I told him, I said, just do what you want to do, you know.
Yep. So eat whatever you want to eat. I was like, all right.
I ain't got nothing else to say about it. I mean, that's
I went in there, sat down at that I said, all right, you know. So I grabbed the bread, right? And there's a couple of rolls. I grabbed one and took a bite of it. I'm sitting there eating like this here, right? And then something came to me. Research yeast again, and about what my issues were with it, right? So let me research that again. When I researched it, I was like, oh man, she wasn't get. I mean, it was horrible what I was reading about, because it deals with gout, basically, you know. And I was like, oh man, you know, that thing is like, it's like this number two bad thing to eat if you're actually having problems with gout or whatever. Which I haven't had no gout attack for more than a year now, but but it's been like you know, watching what I eat and things like that. And so when I saw that on the screen, I was like, oh man, she was right. You know, and I was like, man, you know, but what if the Most High just said, you know what, since you're being hard-headed, I'm gonna give you an attack tonight, you know? You know, I said I could have eaten it right, and then the Most High could be like, okay, now get him, you know? So basically, I was able to see it, and I said, man, you know what? I said, okay, I went in there, I called the kids, because I kind of was like, you know, I kind of got a little loud, you know. Yeah, I got a little loud, okay? I got a little loud, and my wife her feelings were hurt, the kids was like, you know, so I had to call them in there in front of the kids and say, you know, I have to apologize to the way I responded to your mother. You know, I got a little loud, and, you know, I had to explain to them, you know. And she was, and I told her, I said, I'm sorry, you know, she was absolutely right. Daddy should not be eating this right here because it's not good for you, you know. And I had to, I mean, what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm saying? I had to swallow my pride. You know?
Yeah, he basically humbled himself, and it's okay to do those things. It's okay to do that. It's not a blow to your pride to say you're sorry. As a matter of fact, in the eyes of the children, they have a great deal of respect for their dad because he's able to do that, you know, because he's able to bring them in there and say, look, mommy was right. She was just looking out for me and all of this. Yeah. Now, on the flip side of that, I can say that I was wrong for saying, okay, do what you want to do, eat whatever you want to eat. I could have just kept that part off, you know. But out of frustration, I said, okay, fine, just eat whatever you want to eat, you know?
Right.
And so even we still have things that we have to deal with. And we're always asking the Father to help us, to guide us through these things. Be angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down on your wrath.
That's right.
And that's one of those things that we discussed early on, too.
Yeah.
Never go to bed angry. And I'll tell you this much. And see, this is a woman thing. A couple of times, only a couple of times, because the majority of the time we were living by that scripture.
Yeah.
Okay. But a couple of times I said, I'm going to go to bed angry. I'm going to get up in the morning.
Yeah, and she did. She got up in the morning angry. At one time, it seemed like it went 2 days. I said, okay, I'm in the doghouse today. I'm in the doghouse today, y'all.
But it wasn't a good feeling. It wasn't a good feeling at all to purposely just say, I'm going to wake up with this anger. It's not a good feeling because the Most High doesn't want us to do that. As a matter of fact, He commands us to be angry and sin not, and not to let the sun go down. Now, even though I may not have said anything, because it was the silent treatment is what I was doing. I wasn't saying anything. So it's not a sin and not saying anything, but purposing to get up and still be angry, that is a sin. That is wrong because I should have let it go before the night, before we close our eyes. You see? And so even we have to make sure that we are being led of the Ruach, and that we're not allowing our flesh to take over and to rule anything. You see? Because that flesh can get you in trouble. Even if you feel like you're right in something, that doesn't matter.
Yep.
You can be as right can be, but that doesn't matter. You see, sometimes my husband is right in things, sometimes I'm right in things, but it's not for us to say, see, I told you. It's not for us to do that at all. You see, it's for us to just have a humble, loving relationship with one another, and to be able to work through things and reason. Come, let us reason together. You see,
absolutely. You know, it's something. It's really something. You know, that let's think about how marriages are and how they work. I think the Most High that we, you know, that our marriage was guided by Him, and that He was able to take us down that path and teach us a lot of things. And I believe, like my wife said, I believe it's for this purpose, reason right here. You know, somebody had a question that they said, I'm trying to wake up my husband, and he has a hard time understanding we are the chosen. What I would do is back away from him on that. Okay, just you continue to seek the Most High, you continue to grow, get in the Word and everything. Sometimes we can be a little pushy on these type of subjects, trying to get loved ones in, because you can't wake them up. You hear what I said?
you can plant a seed. One plants.
You can plant a seed, but you can't wake him up. And then you don't want to plant too many seeds, right? You know, you can't just keep pouring seeds into a little pot like this here and just packing them with dirt and you keep pouring seeds in, right? You're going to just mess it all up. Ain't nothing going to grow out of that little pot, right? So what you got to do sometimes is plant a little seed, walk away, leave it alone. Give the Most High a chance to say something there, because what happens is, imagine this here, right? Just think about what I'm saying here, right? Now, let's say that everything that a person needs to know about us being the people, you're constantly taking it to this person. You're telling them. Everything you find out, you dumping it on this person. You really don't believe it yet, right? So you know what you have done? You have ruined the opportunity for the Ruach to come and show him some of those things. Because he don't need to feel like it's all just coming from you. You know what I mean? Because now, let's say you only say something to him about the name of the Messiah not really being JC. And you leave it at that, right? Then that gives the Most High a chance to use someone else to come and plant a seed. And someone else say, yeah, you know, it wasn't no letter J 200-300 years ago. It wasn't no letter J. That's a new letter. Then that person can say, wow, I mean, what my wife said this. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you gotta have patience, and you gotta allow the Ruach to move. Allow him to water some of the seeds that you planted. Because if you keep coming at a person, I guarantee you the opposite will happen. I've been in this walk a long time with the Most High. Even when I was a Christian in dealing with people, I found that it's hard to get people to bite, you know, anything that you're trying to say to them when you're pushy with it. Right. You know, I used to be in sales. And one of the greatest techniques in sales that I ever learned was take the deal away from the person. Yep. You get done, you're trying to sell it to them, and they acting funny. Say, you know what? Maybe this ain't for you. You know, maybe it's just not. You know, I mean, it's a good possibility. You know, because I believe, and when you say something like this, I believe that when something is good, it sells itself. Boy, and then you go to pull that contract away from them people. They be, oh, but wait a minute, let me see what you got here. You know. No kidding you, the takeaway. And so sometimes you can't push everything at folks all the time. You know, you got to give them an opportunity to want to do it themselves. You know, it's almost like hunting, right? You know, here you going out hunting, and all of a sudden a deer just come up to you and lay down and die. You be like, oh man, I don't know if I want that deer, right? You know what I'm saying? Or you go fishing, you throw it right out there, fish just leap on the ground and just die right there. You know, you'd be like, I don't want it, right? So let's think about that, right? So anyway, what else we got here? Any more
I've
questions?
been able to copy some of the questions so that we can
Good.
address them in a later video. Like I said,
Good.
this is just a reintroduction to the marriage series.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm thinking, I'm so glad my wife came back to this because I did feel a sense that this was very important. You know, the thing is, sometimes we get so many people um, coming at us with a lot of things, a lot of phone numbers want us to call them. It's so many, and it's so hard to get back with everybody on everything. It's just hard, and so sometimes you know items, things like the marriage series. I mean, we get a lot of people on this marriage series thing. A lot of people want help. You know, pray for me and talk to me. I need help. What can I say to my husband? You know, what can I say to my wife? You know, and it can be like that. You know, let me see where I am with it. Not good. I couldn't.
Okay, that's good.
For some reason, when yours came on, I thought it was already on, just closed. Yeah, see, that's why it could have been charging. But anyway, you know, we're definitely going to do this on a regular basis because I feel it's really needed, and you'll be able to submit your questions through our site, maybe, or how.
Well, some of the questions I got right here from the chat. So,
Okay.
however you want to send it.
Actually, through each broadcast, we'll take questions, you know, and we'll store them up so we can answer them on the next time around, you know.
Okay. Well, we thank you all for joining us this evening. This wasn't really something that we intended to do, so it wasn't announced or scheduled. But we just wanted to let you know to look out for the marriage series. Those of you who have already sent in questions, look for us to cover those as Yah wills, and hopefully we can give you some good information to help save. That's what the goal is, to help save our marriages, because the enemy, he uses so many fiery darts, and we want to help you to identify those. And you have to have two willing participants if you want to save the marriage too. If you have one person trying to save the marriage, it's a lot more difficult. It's not impossible, but it's a lot more difficult. What it simply means is that you're going to have to get on your knees and cry out at your veil and prayer and fasting. You have a lot of work to do if you're the one who's trying to save the marriage, you see. And then also you want to look and see if it's a marriage that you should be saving.
Yeah, because there are reasons. Go ahead.
Some of you are married to Gentiles, okay? So I had to go there. And so if it's on the fritz, just let it go on out. Let the flame burn on out. You see, and I know that might sound harsh to some, but that is a commandment of Yah. We've covered that in so many lessons before.
That's right.
So
that's all I
have to say.
I like the person said the war room strategy. Exactly. That woman had problems in her marriage, and she went to war the right way. You know, but she weighed things out though. She looked at the man, she looked at her relationship, she looked at everything and her family, and she said, this is worth fighting for.
Right.
Okay. And so she weighed things out. Okay. Now, there are some marriages that might not be worth fighting for. Okay.
I mean,
it never should have formed in the first place. I mean, I'm gonna just keep it real, right? Okay. You got a stark mad person that you're married to, this person waving guns and threatening and beating and doing all kinds of crazy stuff like that.
Run for your life.
Then I don't know if that one is worth fighting for. I'm just keeping it real. You know what, you're going to die, you know, for this person.
I don't see any scriptural examples where the Most High commanded a woman or a man to stay in a marriage where somebody knocking their block off.
You remember the image somebody showed on Facebook that time, a woman's face all beat up? And he said something like you remember it was
take off work, don't call the police. Put an ice pack on.
Put an ice. She all beat up, busted up. It's like, don't send him to jail for that. It's like, well, if you ain't gonna send him to jail, you better sure get out from around him, get away from him, you know, get away from him, you know. But see, what option do a woman like that have? First of all, it ain't like we have a community of Hebrew brothers that's gonna put this man in check. And then if the Hebrew brothers did try to put this man in check, what do he mean? He may kill them. You see how crazy things are nowadays, you see?
Because there's no judgment in the land.
No judgment in the land, you see? So basically, you know, we're going to cover a lot of this stuff. And a lot of these things are just, you know, we hope that it really helps some of the marriages, because we see that it's definitely needed. Okay? But anyway.
It's late. And I'm tired.
Yeah, I'm pretty tired too.
We love you, family.
We had a long day too. But anyway, we love you all, and we ask you to keep on praying for us, and
we'll continue to pray for you as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Shalom, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Shalom.